Hey guys, Rich from Rich Mid Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Scum and Villainy, our weekly show where we're going to have a new guest on every 2 weeks. We're going to do a deep dive into either a commander or an operative unit that my guest decides to bring along to them. We'll do a dive into that character. We'll look at some loadouts for that character, and then together we will build an 800-point list. And then we'll have a conversation about it. And joining me for this first ever episode, his partner in crime was on here for the roundtable session that we did, but it is Outrider Dan from the Outrider podcast. So Dan, how are you doing, sir?
Good. It's a pleasure to be on the channel, sir. Thank you for having me on. And it being your inaugural episode, I figured, why don't I bring both?
Why don't you tell everybody, Dan, first of all, why don't you tell people who you are, where'd you come from, that sort of thing. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm one half of the current Legion Outriders. Currently the longest continuously running Legion podcast. We like to stick that feather in our cap. But I've been playing Legion since the game launched back in 2018. And I've been continuously, up into the release of Shadow Collective, I've been a only Empire player. So definitely loyal to the Empire on that.
So you're playing Shadow Collective now. You mentioned you were painting up your 700 pikes or whatever it is that you've got to paint up.
So you can see the pile of gray plastic behind me here. Yes, those are my pikes under construction.
So you said you were bringing a character that was both a commander and an operative. And so are you going down the Shadow Collective route, or are you going down the Empire route?
No, not quite. I'm sticking to my Empire roots. And I'm bringing Iden to the show. And anyone that's listened to the Outriders know that I gush about Iden. Iden is my boo. I played her continuously since release, up until the release of Shadow Collective. I haven't left her though. Hopefully, I wish she could have been in Blizzard Force. Hopefully, she'll be in Tempest Force, considering canonically she was at Endor. So when that Battle Force drops, yep, I'm hoping to play her with that.
Fantastic. So, Iden Versio then, Dan, why pick her? What's so good about her character? What does she bring for the Imperial forces, for the Empire?
Well, she is one of the reasonably costed combat-oriented commanders in Empire.
Yeah.
Or most of them are either, if they're lower costed, they're usually a support piece, like your Krennic, your Veers. But Iden, of course, is able to get in there and mix it up. And I've got an interesting build for you today that I like to dub the melee Iden.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. So, with regards to Iden herself, then you obviously mentioned there that, and as most people will know, she has that ability, covert ops, doesn't she? Where when you deploy, you may treat your rank as operative, and then you gain the infiltrate keyword. How are you tending to play her? Are you playing her as a commander and keeping her as a commander? Are you taking that switch and moving her over to an operative?
Most of the time, I am deploying her as an operative, just to take advantage of that infiltrate keyword. Because being able to place her almost anywhere on the board gives you huge tactical advantage on a lot of the objectives. There are a few that it really doesn't help, though. But yeah, she's able to get up, and of course, with Inferno Squad at her side, she's able to do a lot of nasty things.
Yeah, and are you a fan of her counterpart? Do you take the little ID10 Seeker droid with her as well, or?
Actually, yes, I exclusively always take the ID10 with Iden. For 15 points, gaining 2 hit points, one of which is uncrittable and potentially regeneratable, is just a huge value, even if you don't use ID10 for anything else.
Yeah.
But of course, getting in close, like I said earlier, we're going to go a little melee with her. Those 3 extra white dice and suppressive are really nice too.
Excellent. And I'll ask you a question on this one, Dan. When you painted Iden up, are you a sucker for box art, making sure it looks as perfect as possible, or do you go off-piste and she's got pink armor or something crazy like that?
No, anyone who listens to the Outriders knows that I am totally for custom painted armies. My entire Empire force is in an urban camo scheme. I'm not sure how well she's coming up on camera right here.
Oh yes. Oh, we
But
can see her there. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. But no, I do all of my cloth in Empire and urban camo scheme, and all the hard armor in gray. It's a very nice look.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, then. Well, let's jump over then, Dan, and let's take a look at the roster. Right, I say roster because I'm from Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I need to get the word roster out of my head. But let's take a look then at the list. Let's build a list and go through what it is you're taking with you. So we've got Iden Versio up here, so we'll add her in, obviously. You've mentioned you always take ID 10. I love that. Training. What are you doing from a training perspective? She's obviously got 2 slots on her card. Is there anything you sort of look for in those 2 slots?
Well, 2 slots and loadout. So
And
just to make it
loadout
extra. Yes.
as well. Yeah.
Right. So in the first training slot, I put both offensive push and tenacity. So the offensive push, of course, Iden loves aims. Marksman just eats aims. I mean, aims are good for Empire all around,
Yeah.
so more aims the better. But I also put tenacity in that loadout slot, so it depends on my opponent's force, the objectives, the deployments, the map and amount of cover itself, whether or not I want to skew her towards either melee or towards a ranged option. I might be getting ahead of myself. I do not give her one of her guns.
Oh, okay.
Not only does it save on points, but she already has built in a 3 white dice, Pierce 1 weapon. So if you need to shoot range, combined with marksman, you're almost guaranteed to do a single damage anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And she's got that surge to hit as well, right? I think it is on her card as well.
Right.
So yeah, and I suppose the tenacity makes sense, especially if you're calling this the melee Iden list as well.
Right.
That makes sense. So yeah, what about your second training slot then?
And the second, it's pretty much stapled to be situational awareness.
Okay.
With her quick thinking and nimble, you're going to want to keep a dodge on her as much as possible. And I have another method for getting dodges on her we'll talk about in a moment.
Excellent.
But with that, just keeping that dodge, being able to dodge crits, really helps with her life. Being able to keep her alive, that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you just staple that situational awareness to her there, or do you have a loadout on there as well?
I do have a loadout, but honestly, never use it. I use it just to, because you can fill something out there. And the only other legal training that you can put in there due to the cost is duck and cover.
Yeah.
But I do like to put it on there because when you're printing out your army list and you're handing to your opponent, honestly, the more words on the page leads to, I don't know if it's a little psychological, say, hey, there's a lot on here. You're not going to quite figure out what I'm trying to do yet. But as for the gear slots, currently not. I mean, if I have points, maybe emergency or prepared supplies, prepared supplies. But currently, no, just to save on points.
Yeah, and that's the one that gives you the dodge, isn't it? The prepared to slide with the cash. Yeah. Cool. Right, armaments. So you mentioned that you leave one behind. She's obviously got the DLT-20A and the TL-50 repeater. With the, I'm going to say the second being the sort of more favoured one, I think. I'm right in saying that?
Right. The repeater is the most commonly used one. There is some edge cases for leaving her in the back as an unlimited range sniper, but for that many points, I don't think she would carry her weight doing that.
Yeah. So it's just the TL-50 then, yeah, is what goes.
Oh no, I do not put anything in the armament slot.
Oh, you don't put anything in there? Wow.
Correct.
Okay.
Because with loadout, if you do put one, you can put both and swap out if needed.
Yeah,
but
if you need
just to save on points, those 15 points I think are better spent on ID10 to keep her alive.
Excellent. So you've already mentioned then ID10. You take the emergency transponder. I don't know if there are options. I mean, you can take like the comms antenna, I suppose, as the loadout option.
Yeah. So if you really want to be shenanigan-y, you could put comms jammer on there, if you plan on keeping her up close, like I do in this particular build, or at least a chance to, because well, if she is wounded with tenacity and ID10's extra white dice, she hits the same dice as a dewback, 3 red, 3 white with suppressive. So
Which
she's
is
no slouch in melee.
pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Pretty
Combined
good.
with dodges, situational awareness, and nimble. Honestly, I've had her stand up to lightsaber wielders for 2 to 3 rounds before going down. So being able to tie up your opponent's Jedi, uh, considering her cost point versus their cost point, is very effective.
That's the thing that I'm looking at. And I'm looking at this, and I think we're like 125 points, right? And as you say, you compare her to, I mean, Vader and Palpatine, who are really the other two offensive leaders for the Empire, and you go, wow, she's great value for
Yes.
points in terms of what she brings. Cool. So, what else? What do we take any other commanders in there? Is there any more to add into the list?
So because we're going to be infiltrating her as much as possible, I like to pair with her what I dub the Wonder Becky, which is the Imperial officer, the generic officer, who
Excellent.
the community has colloquially named Becky.
She looks like a Becky.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
She definitely looks like a Becky.
But I put vigilance and a portable scanner on that officer. And the reason I call her Wonder Becky is she has the ability to hand any one particular type of token of any type.
Yeah.
If you want an aim, she'll spotter you. Do you want a dodge? She'll use a portable scanner to take cover on you. And with the vigilance, it lets you keep it.
Yeah, the vigilance. I came up against this card in some recent games that I played. I did a 4-game series with a friend of mine, and he was playing Rebels. He was running Leia, and her dishing out all those dodge tokens and then using vigilance to keep them on during the cleanup phase. It was like, oh my god, they're just even though they're just like their armor's not great or anything like that, they just became so hard to kill. Big fan of that one, I mean, being able to dish out those aim tokens is never a bad thing, as well. As you say, the Empire do love them. She's Becky seems like a strong choice, and she's no slouch herself, right? She's only got she's only a black and a white die for RK3 blaster pistol, but the fact that she's surge to both hit and surge to block as well, I think she's pretty decent for what is it, 45 points I think now.
And you just need to keep her within range 1 to 2, and not necessarily in line of sight. Now you do have to have line of sight to give tokens, but both vigilance and inspire, which is also on a Becky, don't require line of sight, just to be within range 1 to 2. Just keep her hidden around a corner, around a wall, pop out, throw the token.
Just dishing them out. Yeah, definitely. Excellent. So, anything else then from the? I'm assuming that is it from the command pile, or have we got anything else in there?
From the commander pile, because when building a list, you of course, Iden counts as a commander.
Yes.
She doesn't turn into an operative until you actually deploy her, if you choose to.
Exactly.
So for building lists, that fills out the commander slot with both Iden and the Imperial officer.
You've got the 2 slots there, yeah. So operatives then, are you bringing anything obviously outside of Iden when she converts from an operative perspective?
Well, the best operative I found to run alongside her is Operative Vader, actually.
Fantastic.
Not only is he a great distraction, he can also benefit from everything Becky gives him, or could give him as well. It's a second operative token in the bag. So if you need to pull either of them, you have a second token, you're doubling your chances of pulling them.
Yeah, absolutely. So load out them for Vader. He's got 2 force and 2 training, so he's still got plenty of options in there. What are you taking with him?
He's pretty straightforward for just coming in and destroying everything. Force choke, force push, tenacity, and into the fray.
Nice.
So he wants to get buried in there, collect those surge tokens, and just wreck face.
So with the force choke, I think I'm right in saying this, aren't I? So you can actually choose the individual mini in the unit. Is that right? Correct. That you want to choke? So your opponent's got a heavy weapon, and usually they'd keep them alive until last. Just a little choke there, and get rid of their whatever it is, DLT or Z6 or anything like that, and reduce their dice count. What did you say the two training was on there, Dan? Sorry.
tenacity, of course, because you want to add that extra dice.
Absolutely.
And Into the Fray. So Into the Fray gives you a surge token every time an enemy at range 1 activates. So once he gets buried in your enemy's lines, he'll rack up a lot of surge tokens for his own attack, and also for, more importantly, for his defense.
Yeah, because he's lacking on that side of it, isn't he? Although he's a red defense die, and he's got pretty decent attacks, right? He's five red with, I mean, impact 3 and PS3 is just really good. But then he's got he's obviously then got the force throw, 2 black dice, but yeah, he does lack in that surge department, doesn't he? So I suppose Into the Fray makes perfect sense. Wow, it's already looking like a very up close and personal, I'm going to get in your face and murder you list, which is right up my street, Dan. So this is good so far. What are we taking? Let's move on to the core units. What does that loadout look like?
This is the most boring part of the list, I'll be honest with you. 3 naked stormtroopers.
Wow.
Well, with all the other fun things we're going to have in the special forces slot, which we're coming up to in a moment, we kind of needed the points to go around. So they are going to be your backfield objective grabbers, the guys that just sit on evaporator tapping it, basically.
Yeah, I suppose, and with there's 4 of them in there, so that's 12 white dice. You might have some rerolls in there as well, surge to hit. They can, even stormtroopers with their terrible aim. I don't care what Alec Guinness says. I don't care what Alec Guinness says in the original New Hope movie. They are not,
It says their card has precise right on the card.
Yeah, but they can still do some reasonable damage with those range 3 attacks if you do get lucky. But it feels very much like a tick box, that, Dan. Like, what's the cheapest way that I can get 3 core units in there? Have you thought, obviously with the introduction now of the Pike Syndicate foot soldiers at 40 points, is that something you've thought about in there as a replacement for a couple of those?
Most likely not, mainly because pikes work best with a capo, obviously for the courage and control. But unfortunately, both the commander slots are taken, so we're not able to fit that in. So I don't think gaining a net of 4 points would benefit this list too much. If you really want that bid, because I'll be honest, this list is 798. It's not much of an extra bid to gain, but hey.
It could be the difference.
I guess a transponder is 4 points, so that would convert to a transponder.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. There you go. Special forces then. What? Because you got some. I mean, I'm looking down that list myself, and I'm wondering if I can predict. But rather than me making myself look daft, I mean, if I had to guess, I'd go down the IRG route just because of where you're at with this, but I wouldn't staple anything to that. So
actually, when I was first teching this list, because this is the list I took to LVO a little bit earlier this year, I was on the fence. Do I go all with Imperial Special Forces to take advantage of Attack Strike? Do I go more Royal Guard for that melee hedge? Because, of course, with Magna Guards and Wookiees and all the other dewbacks, other melee threats out there, I said, "Por qué no los dos? Why don't we do both?" Of course, there were one of the requirements with Iden is her friend's Inferno Squad.
Absolutely, yeah.
Since the last points upgrade, they are pure value currently. I fear next points upgrade they're going to be hit back up in points because
it does feel like they need something doing, right? Like they're a little bit too economical in terms of what they bring.
Right, because I mean they are 1 white dice less than a Death Trooper dice pool for a lot less points. So,
yeah.
But of course.
So the special forces loadout then for the Inferno Squad, what goes in there? Are you bringing anything extra with them? Obviously they have to equip Del Meeko and Gideon Hask. That they're just part of it. But training, comms, gear, anything on those guys?
Definitely a training, because like Iden, they love aims. So I actually put Hunter on them as opposed to offensive push.
Okay.
Due to the prevalence of multi-wound models in the current meta right now, because Wookiees are hot, dewbacks are hot, Magna Guard are hot. Of course, your opponent's heroes. So being able to generate that extra aim without necessarily having to recover to get that offensive pushback multiple times is good value. On top, of course, with the retinue of an extra token that you get by being near Iden itself.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
definitely put Hunter on there just to hedge against those multi-wound models.
Excellent. Other training slot, we keep that bare, or
we keep that bare because I'll be honest with you, this build does run a little heavy on points. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then from a comms or gear perspective, anything in there, or are we just
Not
bare
on
them
info.
for the rest of it? Cool.
Just bare there for the rest of it. Yep.
Any more special forces squads going in there?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, why not both? So I put both one ISF squad and one Royal Guard squad.
I absolutely love it. And I think IRGs are still, for 69 points are they now, I think, down from like 75 or something when they first came out. I think they're pretty darn good in terms of what they bring.
Right. They don't have the flair of the current Magna Guards, but they are solid for what they do. You definitely want the Electrostaff Guard, though, due to the prevalence of lightsaber users. That's pretty much stapled onto it.
Yeah.
As well as tenacity to get that extra damage.
Are you done then with those guys? Have you got or anything else to put in there?
On the Royal Guards, of course, we did put Into the Fray on them as well, because like Vader, they don't surge naturally to everything. So getting those surges helps with both their offense and defense.
Oh, that's nice. That's really good. Yeah. Cool. Right. What else have we got?
Yep, the last Special Forces slot is, of course, another generic Imperial Special Forces. Because there's only one Inferno squad, but we can bring lots more.
You can bring lots more of others. Yeah, absolutely.
And their standard loadout of a T-21 heavy, which is their only heavy, and offensive push.
So that's taking us all the way up, as you said, to 798. 798 points, which... I mean, I gather you don't win too many bids, particularly
at LVO. I believe I won one, but I like to think of this build in kind of groups of threes. You've got 3 potential. In fact, if you bring Vader's infiltrate card, potentially 4 units that can infiltrate. 3 heavier melee units with Vader, the guards, and Iden. So I kind of run it as 2 little units: the Iden Inferno and the Imperial Special Forces, and then Vader, the Royal Guard, and Becky. Those 2 just come in at different flanks and try and capitalize on how your opponent's messed up.
Oh, excellent. What do you look at then from a command card perspective? Because you've got a lot of options there with the various different leaders and operatives.
So it's pretty split evenly between Iden and Vader. For the 1-pips, I do Pulse Scan on Iden and Implacable on Vader. And this is mainly for her favorite, I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, objective, which of course is recover the supplies. This gives her a lot of ability to grab that center box and get the heck out of Dodge before everything goes down on her.
Absolutely. And then Implacable, this is the one, he suffers a wound, doesn't he? And then shuffles his order token back in.
Right, so turns on Tenacity if he's not already wounded, as well as throws that back in the pool, and that's, again, why I like Iden as an operative, because that gives you an additional chance to pull him back out to do his second attack. And of course, you're always using that second thing to attack. That second activation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Why would you ever use it for anything else?
Yeah,
you're not going to do it and then go, I think I'll just take a standby. Like, that's not... That's not for Vader. Excellent. I mean, right. Let's be honest, two very strong 1-pips. What about the 2-pips then?
2-pips, again, split evenly. New ways to motivate them for Vader. And my favorite little shenanigan card, Incapacitate on Iden.
Incapacitate, excellent. Mm-hmm. Well, let's start with Incapacitate then. So this is the one that you need the droid for, I believe, isn't it? So you've got to have the
Correct.
Seeker droid for this one. So what does this card do then?
So if you're within range, I believe it's range 1 of an enemy unit, you can give it 3 suppression tokens, and if it happens to be a core unit, you also give it a face-down order token. Which, of course, it straight up can win you games in the right situation, obviously. If you can shut down an objective carrier or somebody that's trying to run to tap an objective before they can get there.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I just say, giving them a face down order token as well. Just taking them out for that round is pretty crazy, and then new ways to motivate them. Obviously, this gives you the 2 troopers, doesn't it? But is it the one with the face up when they face up order token when they activate, suffer a wound and perform a free action? Is that
correct?
Is that the one?
Yes. So it's quite the opposite for your own units. They can take a wound to get an extra action, whether they need to run and grab an objective or move, or Iden, it turns on tenacity if you load out her with tenacity, so that she can move, and then attack. So essentially giving her a pseudo charge. So there's a lot of flexibility. Giving it to your Royal Guards, they can triple move, and then since they have charge built in, turns them into little Royal Guard missiles.
Because it doesn't have to be. It's any trooper unit, isn't it, with a face up? So it doesn't have to be a core unit or anything like that. Which
correct,
gives you so much versatility with this card. So I like it. And then finally, then for the 3 pips, what are we looking at?
Of course, the whole main reason you take Iden and Inferno Squad is Tactical Strike.
Yep.
Like it is her most powerful card, straight up. And then for Vader's side, we take Master of Evil.
I do like Master of Evil.
Oh, yes.
Let's start with Master of Evil first. We'll go through that one, and then we'll get on to like the really good stuff with Tactical Strike. So what's this card doing? How do you find yourself playing it?
So of course it gives Vader a dodge, which is important to him living.
He does like and need them dodge tokens.
And of course, by the time you're playing this, you ideally want him to be buried in your opponent's lines, because he will just drop a suppression bomb of 3 suppression on everything within range 1 to 2 of him.
Yeah. And at this point, they're either running away or, at the very best, probably getting 1 action. So no aims, no dodges, no moves. It's really good. And then, as you said, the one that makes not the only thing that makes Iden Versio very good, but it definitely is the cherry on top of an already very, very good character, Tactical Strike. So run me through, or run us through how you play this and why it is just so good.
You usually want to do this early in the game, because this will allow you to alpha strike or hit as hard as your opponent as quickly as possible, hopefully to take an activation or 2 off the board, to get them at that activation disadvantage early. So definitely, it gives orders to 4 troopers on a 3-pip, which is really good.
It's pretty crazy because it's her and then 3 other troopers, isn't it? So
correct.
It's pretty darn good, to say the least. Okay, Dan. So then, rounding things off, we've obviously got to pick some battle plans. So starting with the objectives, then what are the 4 that you go for?
Her favorite is recover the supplies. My highest win rate is with that particular, because depending on your deployment, 99% of the time we're putting Iden on that center box, dropping pulse scan the first turn, giving her a standby, and if anyone does run into range with her, you just use the standby to run backwards and get even farther.
Yeah.
My secret technique, though, with recover the supplies, is to, and you can actually pre-measure this. You're allowed to use the movement tokens the movement templates to pre-measure. Is I'll put Iden in base contact with the box, put the range 2, her speed movement template down, and then 2 base widths out from that, you can put Inferno Squad. So that when Iden grabs the box, moves, she's going to put the box in base contact with Inferno. So in the event that she does get nuked off the board, it's already in base contact.
Already
Inferno
there.
can grab it and continue running.
Excellent. That is a sneaky little plan. That is a sneaky little plan indeed. So that's obviously first choice. What else are you looking at?
The other ones are basically being able to get onto objectives early. So sabotage the moisture evaporators helps a lot, because you can infiltrate your units on your evaporators, and without having to run up and waste actions moving to them, start tapping them. You'll usually have them completed to whether you're breaking them or repairing them to your side, by the time their opponent is getting to their evaporators, giving you the freedom to just mess with your opponent Third and fourth are very similar in the way they play, and that's both intercept and key positions. They're basically areas on the board that you need to control. You being able to get to those early, you can get that early round intercept transmission. You know, the second and fourth round hits on that. Hopefully, before your opponent can move in and get established. You can set up flanks and ambushes for that.
Cool. So deployments then. I gather with Iden, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but obviously you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of where you can pop her in. But what are your sort of four choices then from the deployment side of things?
So she wants the deployments that have the smallest deployment zones possible. That gives her the most board to work with.
Yeah.
So honestly, she loves certain ones and absolutely hates others. Her favorites, of course, the ones that give you the most space: Long March, Battle Lines, Disarray. Rollout is really 50-50 if your opponent has vehicles. Major offensive is probably maybe advanced positions. I packed advanced positions when I did play at LVO, mainly because you're not quite as close, but that speed 1 move, sometimes your opponent can, if they have something with scout, they get that extra scout and can start zoning you out of infiltrate. Because I don't think we mentioned earlier, for people not familiar with infiltrate, you can deploy outside your deployment zone, but you can't deploy within range 3 of an opponent's unit.
Yeah. So you have to, as you say, the less board they have, the more options it gives for you in terms of where you can deploy. And do you find that when because she is so prevalent in the game at the moment, do you find that when you're coming up against certain opposition that they will base their deployment to try and take up as much of that board as possible to just reduce where you can deploy with Iden, or do you not see that? Yeah.
So the worst time you'll have as an Iden player who wants to infiltrate is a mirror match for someone who beat you in bidding. Because they will plop Iden in the center of the board, and suddenly you have practically nowhere that you can deploy outside of your own deployment zone. So.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that actually. Then, so does she tend to be your first character that you deploy, or do you hold her back a little bit? How do you generally approach that?
Oh, definitely deploy her, if not her Inferno squad first.
Yeah.
Just all of your infiltrate units. I know you kind of give away your hand a little early, but you need to get them out before your opponent can start essentially zoning you out of parts of the board.
And then lastly, conditions.
Yes.
What are you looking for? What's your number one go-to that you try and get every time?
And this is my personal favorite. It is true for every game of Legion I play. My personal favorite condition is supply drop.
Okay.
Or as I like to call it, loot drop. I actually had specialty 3D printed from Battlefront 2 their loot box.
Oh, excellent!
As my boxes. Oh shoot! I should have brought them out. I had them in my kit. But anyway, specifically for this objective. So yes, it doesn't matter which game I'm playing. You can supply drop, and it really does help Iden because you put it near the center objective, and she can sit there just grabbing upgrades out of it. While your opponent is still trying to move forward. So,
oh yeah, she can absolutely make good use of that. Yeah, definitely. What else then? What are you rounding the? I nearly said roster again. What are you rounding the list out with?
Fortified positions is another favorite of mine because you're able to basically build your own heavy cover where you want it around the objective that you want.
What are you rounding it out with then, Dan? What are the last two?
Well, limited visibility is great when you're infiltrating, so that you can get in position without getting shot off the board very quickly.
Yes, yeah, those dirty snipers. I imagine like taking pop shots at Iden. I imagine if she just drops herself in the middle of the board.
And the bombardment command cards from a lot of the commanders, which are becoming more common nowadays as well.
Leia, Veers has got one, I think, as well. The Leia one with her sharpshooter 2 is just brutal. So we've got one last card to go in then, Dan.
That is rapid reinforcements. Because putting those Royal Guards aside and going, you know what, I'll drop them next turn within range 2 of a nice squishy target that Royal Guards would love to hit with their sticks.
Yep.
It is a nice play as well.
I suppose it probably saves you taking those pop shots, moving up the board, trying to get where they want to go. Yeah, I think it makes sense because they can't do much. I don't think they've got the range weapon and things, but you really want to get those guys into melee combat, don't you? So yeah, keeping them off the board so they can't get shot is a great way of keeping them all alive, I suppose, until they get where they need to be. You've obviously mentioned there recover the supplies, the long march, and supply drop are the sort of utopia, right? If you can get those, if you can get those three, you're in a really, really good spot. But what are you not looking at? You obviously mentioned hemmed in, wasn't it, from the battle plan side, but are there any of the objectives or any of the conditions that you really, really want to try and avoid running this Iden list?
So the other 4 objectives are not really conducive to Iden. Though you think breakthrough would be nice because you're trying to get into your opponent's deployment zone. The rest of your opponent's army is in that deployment zone and you're already that close. So it's not a good place to be. Not that early in the game.
Yeah, that's gonna. It's probably not going to be a very long-lived Iden if you're up there by the end of turn 2 and everyone just turns and shoots. Exactly. I imagine is what happens.
Yeah. Bombing run, of course, doesn't really work with infiltrate units because you have to attach the bombs in your own deployment zone, and they're already out of your deployment zone.
Yeah.
So that just functionally doesn't work. And those 3 naked stormtroopers are not good at carrying bombs.
No, they are. Yeah. They are not. No, they are definitely not. So Dan, when you go into your game, then obviously there'll be a slightly different tactic for whatever composition of whatever it is you get to play. Of the 3 different types of battle plans, but generally, I often find that there are a couple of different ways that people will just play the game in general. I suppose you've got the players who like to play very, very aggressive. It's all about putting out as much firepower as possible as early as possible. You've then got players that like to play sort of more of a control type game, right? Where they are looking to either isolate units so they can gun them down, or giving themselves lots of dodge tokens, standby tokens, that sort of thing. How would you describe this list? What's your sort of game plan as you're going into there? How do you tend to win? Is it through that attrition piece? Is it through the control piece, or is it I suppose a mix of the both?
Well, you mentioned earlier about action economy. As this is action economy, it's infiltrate to get up there first, and you want to alpha strike. This is a hit your opponent as hard and fast as possible in order to keep them off balance. So definitely an aggressive list.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, like I say, it's been a little while since I've played this game, and I've never really played it competitively. This is why I'm doing these, Dan. I'm just going out there, speaking to some of the most competitive players in the game, and just stealing all of their ideas. So when I turn up to my first event, I'll be able to rock it. But it's a really, really interesting list, and I think it's one that I will definitely be looking to try out, because as I say, I am fortunate enough that whilst I am I would call myself a Shadow Collective player now, I do still have all my Imperials, so it's definitely one that I'll be looking at trying out, maybe casually at first, just to try and get an idea of it. But Dan, is there anything else you want to mention about the list? Mention about what you've maybe the success you've had with it. You obviously mentioned it was what you took to LVO.
Well, I will caveat the fact that I did go 1 and 2 the first day of LVO. So your plan to steal all the best, most competitive players' secrets. Not sure that you're going off to a good start with this, but no, I consider myself an adequate player. I'm not a top tier player. But I like to have fun, and I like to come up with some interesting ideas. So yeah, it's fun. It hits hard, and
I suppose really that is, at least for me anyway, that has to be part of it, right? You've got to be having fun with it. You can go out there and you can build the most disgusting meta list that there is that, maxes everything out, but I think actually doing something that's your own, and I've not seen a list like this before where you're using sort of Iden in that way, and with the IRGs as well as the other two Imperial Special Forces units. So yeah, I really really like it. Who needs stormtroopers to have anything, right? When you've got all of those other units that you can play with. So there we go, guys. That is Dan's. I won't be calling it Dan. So it's the Iden Versio melee list. What
my official name for this was Infilvator.
Infilvator. I like it a lot, and that is what I will save this as. Infilvator. I do really like it. Well, guys, there'll be a link down in the description below to this roster on Tabletop Admiral, so feel free to go and take a look at that and have some fun with it, play with it, and let us know down in the comment section what you think of it. Dan, thank you so much for joining me. Although it's quite early here in the UK, it's that US UK time difference is it does sometimes hit quite hard. But thank you so much for joining me for this inaugural episode, Dan. It's been really nice to have the other 50% of the Outriders on the show now. So we've done 2 Legion videos with guests on them. All we are 1 or 2 for 2 in terms of having the Outriders on. So thank you so much. And once again, where can everybody find you, Dan?
Well, again, it was a pleasure to be on the channel here. So thank you for inviting me on. You can find the Legion Outriders on practically every podcast source out there. Podbean, Apple, Google, etc. We're also on Twitter and on Facebook, and I'm personally on the Discord as Outrider Dan or Dan Tech. So yeah, if you have any questions, definitely hit me up.
Excellent. Well, again, Dan, thank you so much for joining me for this. It was really, really fun, and really, really cool doing a deep dive on a character that I really didn't know too much about, and I always thought she was good. And now I know the reasons why she's good, and I know the things to watch out for if I ever come up against Iden in any games where I'm using my Shadow Collective. Kill her as quickly as possible, I think, is the takeaway I've got from this, and then just hope Darth doesn't catch you up, because he will murder you. But yeah, Dan, thank you so much. It's really, really appreciated. And I will hopefully we'll do something else in the future as well.
Yes, definitely. It was a pleasure, and definitely look forward to something in the future.
And there we go, guys. That is our deep dive into Iden Versio and then the 800-point list that Dan has put together. And once again, a big shout out to Dan, Outrider Dan, from the Outriders Legion podcast for joining me on this inaugural episode. This was, I would say, sort of mid-level competitive lists. We're going to be having some very competitive lists on here, so some guests that play really competitive lists. We're going to have some very casual thematic lists as well, so there should be something for everybody in there. Guys, we do have a couple of giveaways running at the moment. You can still win yourself a Shadow Collective starter set. You can also win giving away 4 copies of the Dynamic Exit. This is a really, really nice sort of thematic, narrative little scenario there. So I managed to get my hands on this. So I'm giving away 4 copies of this, guys. So go check that video out. There'll be a link down in the description below for details on how you can win that. And I'm going to use this episode, actually, to announce our next giveaway, because guys, this channel, my MCP subscribers know this, but this channel is all about giving back to the community, and I do that through a number of different ways. Obviously this channel makes not a lot but some money. I also have a sponsorship with Elysian Wargames here in the UK, and they have been very, very generous to donate a brand new, well, not brand new, but it is new, but brand new in box Star Wars Legion original core set. So this is the Empire versus the the Rebels. Sorry, you can see the ring light there. We are going to be giving away this set. And we're going to tie the giveaway of this set into this new Hive of Scum and Villainy show that we are doing, where we break down an individual character and then put a roster together. So big shout out to Ellis and James over at Elysian War Games for donating this giveaway for us. So how can you win, or how can you win with a chance to win yourself this core box? Well, you're going to need to do 3 things for me, guys. You first of all need to make sure that you subscribe to Rich Mid Gaming. That one goes without saying. You also need to make sure you leave a like on the video as well. Really, really appreciated. And lastly, you need to leave a comment down in the comment section below. Now, the way that it's going to work is probably in the next 2 or 3 months. By that time, we'll have done probably 6 of these, 8 of these, because they are going to be bi-weekly. We may not get them every single one, but they are going to be bi-weekly. But I will pick one of those videos at random, and then from those random videos, or from that random video, I will pick a random comment. So to increase your chances, you need to make sure that you leave a comment on every single one of these videos that we do. And for this one, guys, I want you to let me know what you guys think of Iden Versio, and in particular, what you think of the list that Dan put together. Again, there'll be a link down in the description below for this list, and there'll also be links to all of the Outriders socials on there as well. Guys, as I mentioned, if you could leave a like on the video, it really, really does help. And if you want to support the channel even further, we do have our Patreon now. We've also got our Discord. It's completely free to join. Yes, right now it is predominantly an MCP Discord, but there is a dedicated space there for Star Wars Legion, and there's already lots and lots of Star Wars Legion players on there, so head on over to check that out. And just a big shout, because I didn't just do it, but a big shout out to everybody who already supports me on Patreon. So if you do want to support me, again, there'll be a link down in the description below. Guys, as always, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, may the Force be with you.